Okay, hello again. This is for COMM 101, and let's start with a couple of points. Discussion board. A couple of you failed to read the part about you need to respond to other people's discussions in order to get credit for the discussion. You got to follow all of the directions. So please read carefully what you're supposed to do on the discussion boards if you're wondering why you did not get full credit. Overall, the comments on the discussion board are good and helpful. You could be a little more helpful to each other where you're asked to participate. All right, we're going to do critiques, and these will be by fantasy name. We'll start with Chaser. Chaser, you had an interesting topic, and you had an excellent use of demo materials to include the visual of the logo, so it was really clear what you were talking about. Great job on that. Get your camera a little closer. I suspect your microphone's on your camera, and you're probably zooming to get the shot you want. Get the camera a little closer so we get better audio on you. Watch the rhythms. I think we've talked to you about this before. You tend to be predictable, a kind of a ta-da, 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 ta-da. Vary it. You can vary pitch, pace, tone, volume, and silence. Do that. Don't always speak at the same rhythm, the same rate, the same pitch. Vary that so that you can do a lot more with it. What else is here? You tend to look like you're leaning on the door frame, like you're leaning a little bit to the right. I think you're not, but part of the deal is you drop your shoulder, and I think we got a little bit of a posture problem there. Always make sure that you're sitting up straight, standing up straight because you have to be standing, and that you have good support diaphragm and things like that. You didn't mention in your speech the higher cost of recycled materials and the cost of recycling overall. You tended to be instructional in nature and not conversational. This is a problem that a fair number of people have. Don't Sesame Street the information. Okay, kids, now we're going to do this. Isn't it fun? Don't do that, but be a little more conversational and not so college professor-ish, if that's such a word. And then finally, no more topics involving trash in any way, shape, or form. That's it. You're over, you're done, and you can't do anything else. Also, deductions because you went way over. I saw some of the discussions, and you students are acting like you just do the speech and you go until you find a good spot to end. No, that's why there's a time limit. I allow 15 seconds of slop on either side, so if it's 5 minutes to 8 minutes, you can go from 4:45 to 8:15 or anything in between. But you can't just go 9 minutes because you had a lot more to say, and you have to know how long your speech is. Remember, we've talked about this already, where you have a tendency to either speed up or slow down a little bit, so you want to be careful of that. Moving on, bears. Fantasy name bears. A very interesting topic that you had there. However, you tended to be monotone, very little inflection in your voice. Remember, pitch, pace, tone, volume, silence. Those are the 5 things you can control. Control them. Vary it. Pitch, pace. Go a little faster sometimes. And then sometimes you want to slow down. Occasionally, you want to pause for a second to add effect. Okay? Play with that a little bit and have to go. And generally, you had no vocal variation and you tended to go too fast. Start your speech by looking at the camera. Don't start your speech by saying, today we're going to talk to you about how important it is that you be aware of the 7 wonders of the world. And then come up. Don't do that. You want to be right in touch with the camera from the get-go. Frankly, you gave too much detail. You put me into Safe Assign to see if I could find indications that it was lifted from other things. There's a lot there. too much detail. You may be fascinated by it, but the average audience may not be. So it was kind of hard to follow as you move from one point to another. You were not conversational, and you had multiple mispronunciations. There is no such thing as a facade. There is a facade, so you want to make sure that you check pronunciations, and if you're not familiar with the word, either don't use it or make sure you know how to pronounce it. And also make sure that when you mention your source, you pronounce it correctly. And also, as required in the speech, you had no visual aids. So that will come in to haunt you also. So there's that. Now let's move to Scarlett. Scarlett, what you had there could be an interesting and valuable topic, but you got to tell us why. Also, with a number of you, and here we go again on this, not just Scarlett, a number of you do this, establish your credibility. Now, if you're a nurse and you're talking about something health-related, and we all understand you're a nurse, or you say, make sure you say, I've been a nurse for 25 years, and, all right, I have been in nutrition and food for 20 years. Or it could be, I have always had an interest in nutrition. Somehow establish your credibility on the topic. Don't ever in a speech say, you guys. Be a little more formal when you're talking to your audience. A couple of you have developed an issue with what I call the tisk. You're talking along, and as you're talking, the sound of this comes into play when you're talking. Now, I'm over-exaggerating it, but go back and check out your speech, and you'll hear that tisk. It tends to be a female problem, but not to be totally sexist. Guys do it too. So just watch that you're not using that tisk or whatever when you do that. Any kind of a vocalized sound is the same as that. Some people do and some people do, and they move on from there. So try not to tisk when you talk. All right. Audience, absolutely required. No ifs, ands, or buts. That'll cost you dearly in a speech for having no audience. So that's pretty much it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop, and we're going to do a part 2 of this. So we'll stop right now.